Good morning and welcome, everyone. I'm the Reverend Kevin Tarsa, here today with today's worship associate, Jeff Stone, Siobhan Boylan, Andy Dooley-Miller on our audio-visual equipment with Bob Miller's assistance. Participating in the room this morning, which we're very glad about, are Bob Brandstrom, Penny Harlan, and Jim Baer, with Carmen Riley, who's been serving as our building host this morning. And as is almost always true, Beth Carroll serving on Zoom as our chat host. Please send her a note if you have a need or a question that rises during the service. Jordan Thomas Rose, UUCM's Director of Music, is with us via videos this morning. As we prepare to enter this time, I invite you to turn on your cameras if you're at home, if you're comfortable doing so, and to take a moment to go to gallery view for a second and just look around, a chance to glance at one another, to wave a good morning hello, to know that you're not alone. This morning, even as we focus inward, that you are not alone. And we're getting closer to on-site in-person services again, so now's your chance to warm up your interaction muscles. So I invite you to look around the faces if you are willing to have your camera on and to look around gallery view for a moment. See who's here and give a wave. Our song for gathering in is There's a River Flowing in My Soul. It's a song that arises out of the experiences of a black person in the United States, a person by the name of Faya Ora Rose Touré. The song arises out of the experience of hearing again and again, you are nobody. As you sing along this morning, there's a river flowing in my soul and it's telling me that I'm somebody. I invite you to take in as much of that message as your heart needs to hear. And at the same time, to send it outward as well, to all those who are yet wanting to believe it is true for themselves. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my soul, in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Hi, I'm Jeff Stone, and I'm your worship associate for today. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community of the Mountains, where the theme for this month is cultivating relationship. This week, we are focusing on our relationship to ourselves. I'm guessing that during this pandemic, you've had more time with yourself. What does that even mean, having a relationship with yourself? When you speak of a relationship, it generally implies that we're talking about one person with at least one other. If you ponder on who or what you are as a human being, doesn't that seem at times that there is more than one of us? When we talk to ourselves, whether aloud or just in our head, who are we speaking to? Well, I'm not going to try to answer that deep question now. After all, I'm here to welcome you. But I wish to welcome all of you, however many parts you have. You are all welcome here. Does that sound strange? If it does, then consider this a welcome to the one you. Anyway, let's see what others have to say on the subject of our relationship to ourselves. I hope you learn something about yourself, as well as something about others as they ask the same questions.
On this cool fall morning, good morning. Today's chalice reading is Until We Draw Together by A. Powell Davies. What are we, any of us, but strangers and sojourner, forlornly wandering through the nighttime until we draw together and find the meaning of our lives in one another, dissolving our fears in each other's courage, making music together and lighting torches to guide us through the dark. May the light we kindle in our time together guide us once again through the dark and into the bright dawn of courage.
As Jeff lights our chalice here, I invite you to light your chalice at home. The symbol of our tradition, this flame in a cup, symbolizing many things, including the community that holds us, the larger love that holds us, and the flame that is a flame that can symbolize light, truth, warmth, love. Each week we offer a land acknowledgement regarding the people who are on this land long before the rest of us. The Nisenan are the indigenous people of this area. Today's 146 members of the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe are the remaining descendants of the 7,000 to 10,000 Nisenan living here when the gold rush began. Penny Harland offers our land acknowledgement this morning.
I'm very happy to be here today to read this land acknowledgement. I consider it an honor. In our commitment to be in right with relationship with the descendants of the area's indigenous people, we place a small basket of black oak acorns on our altar each week. In doing so, we acknowledge the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though they are nearly invisible, and their story continues to be excluded from history. We understand we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from near genocide of their people. As residents or visitors in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people, as well as the campaign to restore tribal sovereignty through federal recognition.
Good morning. The opening words today are Woven Anew by Reverend Scott Taylor, and I must say that I find these truly insightful and inspiring. Come, come with your joy, your incurable curiosity, your hunger for hope. But bring too your broken heart, your cracked confidence, your ruptured relationships. Let this today be a place of repair. May the words spoken become webbing, weaving again a path back to wisdom, back to forgotten worth, back to a place of peace now buried by all the striving, worry, and wounds. May the sounds circling in this space sweep you up like a stream whose currents long to carry you home. And may the common breath, so sweetly shared between us, remind you that loneliness eventually lifts, that we are tethered more tightly than it seems sometimes, that together our hearts can mend and our world can be woven anew. Come, let us begin.
The Stuff of Stars by Marion Dane Bauer, illustrated by Akua Holmes.
We are the stuff of stars. In the earthy fullness of our humanity, we are the stuff of stars. Pema Chodron teaches that the most difficult times for many of us are the ones we give ourselves, and that it's never too late to practice loving kindness, to practice an unconditional friendship with ourselves. Imagine that, an unconditional friendship with ourself. As we pause this morning to search our hearts, our stellar and earthbound hearts, for the feelings, the body sensations that tell us that something is calling for our attention, as we listen for that inner voice that calls for the awareness of the joy, the anxiousness, the worry, the hope that is present right now in this moment. Listen, too, for the places that might be inviting your attention to your friendship with yourself. Places where you notice a friction, places where you notice an ease. Let your stillness, your contemplation, your prayers take into account this morning all of the fullness of your life. Even as your prayers and your cares extend to others, let them also pay attention to you this morning. If you wish, you may type into the chat a joy or a sorrow or a concern that you carry, that we might share it together, that we might be witnesses to all that you hold. I invite you into this time, into the quiet, into the music, into the prayerfulness, in the way that will serve your well-being and your ability to reach out into the world. Our words this morning come from the Reverend Gretchen Haley, the wise Reverend Gretchen Haley. Know you are not alone and discover the way our voices rise. For this one moment, know only that you are loved. Know only that you are loved, that you are safe and whole and loved. Know that you belong here. You belong here among us, here upon this earth, in your body, however tired or broken your heart may be. Whatever fear, disappointment, anger you carry, for this hour, know you are not alone. Feel the presence of others surrounding you even at a distance, breathing with you, discovering together the way our voices rise and fall together in harmony, in hope. Claim here a resilient freedom, the choice for love, for light, to live with joy, to live with gratitude and praise as a form of resistance. For this one moment, know only that you are loved. With the breathing of this next breath, this one breath, this sacred belonging, let us enter into a time of silence together.
Voice still and small, deep inside, I hear you call, singing. In dark and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing.
My Brain and Heart Divorced by John Rodell. My brain and heart divorced a decade ago over who was to blame about how big of a mess I have become. Eventually, they couldn't be in the same room with each other. Now, my head and heart share custody of me. I stay with my brain during the week, and my heart gets me on weekends. They never speak to one another. Instead, they give me the same note to pass to each other every week. And their notes they send to one another always says the same thing. This is all your fault. On Sundays, my heart complains about how my head has let me down in the past. And on Wednesday, my head lists all of the times my heart has screwed things up for me in the future. They blame each other for the state of my life. There's been a lot of yelling and crying. So, lately I've been spending a lot of time with my gut, who serves as my unofficial therapist. Most nights, I sneak out of the window in my rib cage and slide down my spine and collapse on my gut's plush leather chair. That's always open for me. And I just sit sit, 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 until the sun comes up. Last evening, my gut asked me if I was having a hard time being caught between my heart and my head. I nodded. I said I didn't know if I could live with either of them anymore. My heart is always sad about something that has happened yesterday, while my head is always worried about something that may happen tomorrow, I lamented. My gut squeezed my hand. I just can't live with my mistakes of the past or my anxiety about the future, I sighed. In that case, you should go stay with your lungs for a while. I was confused. The look on my face gave it away. If you are exhausted about your heart's obsession with the fixed past and your mind's focus on the uncertain future, your lungs are the perfect place for you. There is no yesterday in your lungs. There is no tomorrow there either. There is only now. There is only inhale. There is only exhale. There is only this moment. There is only breath. And in that breath, you can rest while your heart and head work their relationship out. This morning, while my brain was busy reading tea leaves, and while my heart was staring at old photographs, I packed a little bag and walked to the door of my lungs. Before I could even knock, she opened the door. With a smile, and as a gust of air embraced me, she said, "What took you so long?" How has your relationship with yourself evolved or changed during the pandemic? With its enforced sequestering at home, whether you live alone and have had abundant solitude, or live with others or another? That is the question posed to 3 members of our congregation plus our music director. What better way to explore this question than by hearing personal stories? Janet Bullock, Stu Matthews, and Jordan Thomas Rose will come to us by video, and Dawn Bateman will speak to us live. I hope that after hearing these 4 people, you will reflect yourself on how you have changed during the pandemic in relationship to yourself and also in your relationship with others. It is hard to see how anyone can go through an experience like this and not be changed in some way.
So for the answer to this question, I really wanted to give you a talk about my gratitude for COVID and the deep insights that I saw in myself and the place in the world. But I couldn't do it. I had to tell you what's real and authentic about my experience and be my true self. So here it is. I'm pissed. I'm angry. I'm furious. I'm incensed. I hate this virus, and I hate what it's done to our lives, to people, to me. I've lost the ability to visit with friends, give hugs to people, do recreational shopping, eat in restaurants, and come here and feel my experience of love and community that I craved. I missed my Master Gardener public education. I missed my friends at my sewing group. I didn't really know how important the virus had made me realize that connections were in my life. So I tried to talk to people about my anger. I raged against masks, quarantining, Zoom, boredom, and loneliness. And the responses I received, for the most part, just made me angrier. I never felt like I was being heard. Some people just assumed that I was some sort of scofflaw and wasn't going to wear a mask, or I was going to go party, right? I also received a lot of platitudes. Use this time to get to know yourself, they said. Try some new hobbies that you are interested in. Catch up on your reading, another helpful person said. Oh, and get this one. Grated me most. Be grateful for Zoom. You need to know, I loathe Zoom. I know that many people are truly grateful for this tool and making connections. But me? No. I don't like looking at pictures of people on television. I don't know how to have a conversation with a headshot. And I can't figure out what someone else thinks, feels, and needs by watching it on the damned computer. So be grateful for Zoom? Sorry, can't do it. Others simply told me that my anger was useless and that I needed to adapt. Well, okay, but I didn't want to adapt. I wanted to return to normal. The fact that it wasn't happening just made me angrier. So all that sounds really childish, right? Well, maybe so, but the anger hurt deeply. Anger is an emotion I rarely show. In my home, growing up, you weren't supposed to be angry, and if you were, it made other people angry at you because they were uncomfortable. So I didn't know what to do with it, and I knew I couldn't live with it. So I tried to do some healthy things to get rid of it. I tried reading books, and I got very, very bored. I watched a lot of TV, which was completely unsatisfying. I was distracted. I took my dog for a walk. That was somewhat helpful, but I was lonely. So eventually I decided that I needed to have a life, despite COVID. I chatted with my neighbors in the street. I held some Zoom cocktail parties and had a party for my master gardener friends. I still hated Zoom, but I was using it for lighthearted social gatherings, and I was feeling like I was starting to poke COVID in the eye. Revenge felt really good. But the satisfaction of revenge is fleeting. My life still needed to go on. Zoom wasn't cutting it. I needed to accept some additional risk. Bob and I formed a pod with 2 other couples. Very helpful. I did my recreational shopping with a mask. We ate restaurants outside, and I started feeling somewhat normal. After vaccination, I took my remedy for my anger a little more, accepted a little more risk. I know that vaccines aren't foolproof, but hanging out with fellow vaccinated folks seemed a reasonable risk. We agreed to share the risk together. Oh, it felt so good to be with them again. Since then, I've moved on with a little more risk. I've gone to outdoor venues. I went to San Francisco for a few days. We've eaten inside at well-distanced restaurants. I even went dancing once. It's still not normal, but my anger is much less. Connection is precious. During COVID, I learned to manage my anger and direct it towards creating solutions and compromises so I could get what I needed. I learned to evaluate risk. What risks was I willing to take to preserve for me this essential food of my mental well-being? I know that the path I take to meet my needs is likely different than the mainstream, and I may be judged harshly for it. But now, in telling you my whole truth, I've learned that I can be brave enough to speak out loud about my anger, regardless of who gets mad.
Relationship with myself during enforced sequestering at home. I'm not sure. Maybe my relationship to myself has changed a little. I seem to have more fun with myself. I've lightened up a bit. I talk with myself more. We laugh a lot. We get a kick out of the many dumb things I do. And also I'm there for myself when I'm down, when I cry in fear and loneliness and despair for the world. When I recoil from the reflection that I see in the bathroom mirror or on Zoom, who is that? I'm also there. Yes, dear Janet, quite a change, but just remember, I love you completely, no matter what. And I look in the mirror and I say that. I have a wonderful Zen practice which continues to be transformational, and I stick with it. It has evolved me to be more at home in this body, ego, life experience, to be more of a channel for compassion and ease. I've chosen to not indulge in comfort food, but rather to eat very well, very carefully, and gratefully. Also, this is a place where I can put in practice the value of living sustainably by buying only organic food, a win-win choice, a small way to be a part of the planet's healing. Also, I exercise regularly. Here's a quotation. I don't know where I got it. Taking care of myself is in everyone's best interest. So know that I'm taking care of you. I have an almost throwaway pile of almost not good enough art, which I've been reworking, much to my delight. I'm not caring too much about whether or not others like it. I care, but just not a lot. Lastly, my front porch has become a place for neighbor kids to come to bother me at all hours, to touch my heart. So many dramas and comedies of errors have played out on my porch for about a year and a half now. More. Kids coming to sell me ice for headaches. Or crystals, aka rocks, plucked from the side of the road. And in one instance, setting up a stand on the street and running to my door to get me, and when I come out the door, going to the other kids and saying, she's coming, this great celebrity, me. Only for me to discover that in all innocence, they're trying to sell me art materials that I gave them. Eventually, though, over the months, they began making cards on my porch, which have enabled them to learn to cut, to learn to write a little bit, and to write love letters to their parents. The evolution is that I've developed a little less potent fear of invasion, and loss of control as the result of allowing invasion and loss of control. This is a work in progress. Here's a quotation from Parker Palmer. I now know myself to be a person of weakness and strength, liability and giftedness, darkness and light. I now know that to be whole means to reject none of it, but to embrace all of it.
During the pandemic, which is now a year and a half long, my relationship with myself has changed a lot in that I've had to be more reliant upon just myself and my inner world and my own head. I live in Nevada City co-housing, and a big part of co-housing is the common meals, where we all get together a few times a week with all the neighbors and have dinner together. During the pandemic, these common meals have reduced quite a bit in frequency because you have to get outside, which isn't always possible, and people are busier. Some people aren't comfortable even eating outside together, so we have common meals maybe 2 or 3 times a month instead of 3 to 6 times per week. So that's a lot fewer face-to-face interactions than I had before. Another big part of my social life before the pandemic was going to UUCM, and we haven't been able to do that this entire pandemic either. I know there's online services. I haven't been able to go to those because it doesn't really work when you've got children in the room needing your constant attention. You can't really have a spiritual experience at that time. And even if I had been able to go, you're not going to have really deep conversations and relationships over Zoom where you would in person. I do have my game group twice a month. I get together with some friends and play some games. We've played twice in person this whole time. We briefly got back together in person, and then when things started to get bad again, we went back to online, and that has been nice. It's not the same, but it is important. And I have been able to see some other friends here and there, but overall the theme has been having to rely more on my inner world, and that's been a little difficult. I think I've been successful in having some good habits during the pandemic, but you really have to rely on your own willpower, your own inner strength to be able to get through the day-to-day, and that's not always easy. So I think, all things considered, I would have liked to be able to maintain a lot more in-person relationships during this time. But it has been a time of growth as well, because I've realized that I can maintain good habits and maintain a healthy emotional state, even during a hard time where I can't have as many in-person relationships.
My relationship with myself during these last 2 years of COVID has felt at the same time very much the same as it was before, but also with some key differences, as the world is completely changed and will almost certainly never go back to the way it was. I am someone who has always been content to delve deep into a project and lose myself for hours or a full day and then come back to it the next day, only briefly emerging for social activities and then feeling like I needed some social recharge time after that, and going back to I'm not going to say loner activities, but just sort of introverted activities. With COVID, there has been an abundance of time for those introvert activities. And my challenge has been keeping a routine with that. When so many of my jobs have moved, especially in that first year, to distanced or recorded or going in somewhere by myself and doing work, I have felt personally that I need not stricter but more regular routines in my life to help keep me moving and help keep me motivated. Some of those have been strictly self-care, such as when things first started being in lockdown. I had made the very prescient purchase of an inflatable hot tub. And that became part of my COVID routine, was drinking my coffee in the morning in my hot tub in my backyard, while reading a book or checking emails or just catching up on a news podcast. And that became like a really solid way to take in some of the insanities of the world in a very comfortable and violent environment. And that really, I think, helped sort of ground me during that time. And as things went on, and obviously with so much time for self-reflection, it was also a time to really, I guess, just think about the trajectory of my life and where I wanted it to go. And some pieces of that were right where I wanted them, and others were more hazy or sort of in flux, especially as the world was changing around me. With all this, I don't feel like COVID has deeply changed the core of how I relate to myself, but I do feel like it has solidified some of those things. It has certainly made sort of the way I spend my solo time more intentional, as well as the way I spend my social time. And it's really just sort of brought to the forefront how I interact in the world with other people, whether that's with who I live with or who I work with, or just who I see every day, or just on the weekends, or just on random social occasions. And this is sort of brought to my mind a new sense of, I guess, purpose, in that I know who I am, and I know who I want to be with, but I don't necessarily know where I'm going. And part of that is just due to where we are as society, and part of that is just due to me being someone who tends to sort of go with the flow and sort of let the currents of life take me along. But at the same time, feeling like I need to have more of a say in where I am steering to.
"25% of our offering this month will support Habitat for Humanity, which brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. Habitat for Community envisions a community where everyone has the opportunity to have a safe, decent, affordable place to live. We are about to show a video featuring Jim Phelps, Development Director of Habitat for Humanity. Since we are not passing a plate in person, giving in other ways is vital to our ability to sustain the work of our community. After the video, you'll see a slide showing ways to give by text, PayPal, UUCM's website, or by mail. Thank you for your generosity.
Hi, I'm Jim Phelps with Nevada County Habitat for Humanity. And on behalf of all of us here, and especially the two single moms whose homes we're building right now, I want to thank the Unitarian Universalist community of the mountains for your support. You guys have been with us for a long time, and we feel your support every single day. And I just want you to know that, because that's so special. Because what's cool about Habitat is while we're helping these two moms and building a forever home for their children, and it's only through Habitat and your support that that's possible. But there's this ripple effect that goes through the entire community that creates safety, stability, and a special place in our hometown as these Habitat neighborhoods are built. You've been a part of that, and you continue to be a part of that through your support. So on behalf of Habitat, I thank you. If any of you out there want to become more involved with Habitat or want to learn more about where we're going in the future, and also about our current projects, please reach out to me. It's easy. Just give me a phone call at 274-1951 and ask for me. I'd be glad to let you know what's going on. So anyway, on behalf of Habitat and Lene and Shauna, who are the two moms we're helping to build their homes, I want to thank you.
Although we're not passing the basket in person, your generosity remains essential to our ability to sustain the work of our community. There are several ways to contribute. You may text an amount to 833-579-0483, give via our website at uugrassvalley.org, via PayPal at paypal.me/UUCM, or mail to UUCM 246 South Church Street, Grass Valley, California, 95945. Thank you.
Let us dedicate this offering to our firm belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
A special thank you to Jordan Thomas Rose and Stu Matthews, Janet Bullock, and Dawn Bateman for sharing their views. Dawn, there are a whole bunch of comments in the chat about with gratitude for your willingness to express honestly what you were feeling. Yes, Dawn is looking surprised, but you are very much not alone, and it was a gift to be able to express those less than publicly acceptable kinds of feelings, right? Thank you. Jeff, thank you for being our worship associate this morning so beautifully. Beth, for being our chat host once again, as you do each week. Siobhan, who's doing an amazing job on not only running the equipment, but also helping us improve the ways we're working. And Andy Dooley Miller on sound this morning. Bob, thank you for helping shepherd and troubleshoot. Shanti offered the beautiful, beautiful fall autumnal setting this morning. Jordan for music, of course. Thank you to Jim Phelps for helping us know a little bit more about humanity. That group does amazing work. And then in the room this morning, it's been great to have you here, Jim and Bob and Penny. Thank you for being willing to come and be part of it, but also to share your voice. And then behind the scenes, once again, George Dunstan and Corey Silva. Thank you, each of you. For our closing song this morning, we'll sing This Little Light of Mine with Jordan. And I invite you during this song to, if you're comfortable, have your camera on. If not, now's your chance to turn it off. But also to either bounce around the views on your screen or do some gallery view so that you can see each other. So as we're singing about sharing who we are, this light of who we are, you have a chance to see in each other's faces, in each other's body postures, in each other's view and waving, that piece of light that's in others. With that, this little light of mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around these hills, I'm gonna let it shine. All around these hills, I'm gonna let it shine. All around these hills, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. The love that's in my heart, I'm gonna let it shine. The love that's in my heart, I'm gonna let it shine. Love that's in my heart, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. The peace that's in my soul, I'm gonna let it shine. The peace that's in my soul, I'm gonna let it shine. The peace that's in my soul, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine.
Well, that was fun to see smiling faces and moving faces. Thank you for those who took part. Pema Chodron points out that when we buy into disapproval of others or ourselves, we're practicing disapproval. When we buy into harshness toward ourselves or toward others, we're practicing harshness. When we buy into impatience or frustration with others or ourselves, we're practicing impatience or frustration. The more we do it, the stronger those qualities will become, she reminds us. So let's pay attention to what we're practicing and bring our loving kindness to what we notice. Let's learn to develop unconditional, or for a start, maybe less conditional, friendships with ourselves, remembering always that we are loved and that our breath is waiting to welcome us home. I invite you into this community benediction. I invite the folks here in the room to say it out loud and with strength. This weekly affirmation that we are connected no matter what. Together, let us carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. So in 2 weeks, we'll be meeting at the fairgrounds. Just know that that's coming up. In the meantime, okay, Siobhan, starting point is coming up in November as well for people who want to get to know more about the congregation, whether you are brand new or whether you've been around for a while and want to connect to others. And we'll see you next Sunday back here on Zoom for a service that will have us interacting with each other a bit over Zoom.
Get ready. If you'd like, you can turn on your camera if you haven't done so already. We'll be unmuting everyone shortly so you can say hello. You'll be invited to join in a breakout room, which you can go to or come back to the main room at any time. And a lot of times those rooms are empty or just a couple people go in. So if you want to have a private conversation, feel free to join one of those rooms and I can help you get there. Here's a list of today's breakout rooms.